how they can.
Well,
All right.
I'll go ahead and we need to have like a like a song, like a sound
this
that like
is
plays every time I do this.
this is going to be a repetitive or reoccurring segment for the podcast. Luke mentioned that he played for the University of Cincinnati. He played some offensive line. He played some defensive line. He's big in the trenches. And this is going to be his personal segment that we're going to do. And this is the Tale of the Trenches. And Luke, tell us what you got for this week.
All right, fellas. I hope you're ready. Buckle up, because I put my notes in good here. All right, so Tale of the Trenches. For this week, obviously Duke Notre Dame, as we mentioned. And kind of just some tidbit notes. I went both sides. I made sure I touched up on Duke's offensive line and then Notre Dame's defensive line. Then I went vice versa. Went ahead and touched up on Notre Dame's offensive line and Duke's defensive line. So kind of starting off, the one thing that's going to be this is kind of just me thinking about what we've got going on here from Duke's offense. Their offensive line's young, but they're all experienced. They've all had playing time. They've all started. And these guys have gelled together a little bit. So it's nice to see that they're all returning. That's going to get them a little bit of a better leg up against this Notre Dame defense. The only thing is that they're young. You know, I think they only have like one senior on the entire starting offensive line, which generally that doesn't provide a dominant offensive line. Usually the dominant offensive lines have at least 3 seniors on that O-line. They only have one. So I think they're still, but like I said, they're experienced. All returning starters, right guard, Rakevius Chambers, he's the veteran of the group. As I said, he's the one senior. He's 6'3", 335 pounds. Curious to see how he does. So he's going to be the guy that I'm watching, like I said, right guard for Duke's offensive line. Notre Dame's defensive line, they're all older than the entire offensive line for Duke, and they're all they've all have more experience, all returning, and both of these DNs are fucking veterans. These dudes, they're dudes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, these guys can play. So, like I said, the veteran for Duke's offensive line, he's an interior guy. He's a right guard. You got your veterans playing on the outside. So, my whole opinion that I put on this is Duke needs to find a way to shake up these DNs for Notre Dame. I don't know exactly how Duke's, what they've got geared up, but they're going to have to do something that are going to have to keep these DNs to stay home and not to penetrate too much and start making your quarterback get antsy. So, they're going to have to shake and bake him a little bit, you know, throw some outside zones, something that's going to have to make them hunker down. Also some power, of course, because then they have the wrong arm. But, you know, more than anything, they're going to have to find ways to get into these defensive ends' heads or something. They're going to have to find some kind of advantage with these guys more than anything and force these guys to make decisions. Notre Dame, they just need to stunt on passing downs situations. I think that's all they're really going to have to do. Is really just maybe stunt here and there, if that. I don't even know if they're going to have to really do that. The defensive ends are going to be able to contain with no problem, in my opinion. If anything, they're going to have one playing rush and one playing containment, probably from the field side. So I can see the field side DN every single time doing some sort of penetration blitz, something like that. And then that boundary DN is just going to hold that tackle up and just wait for money to come his way.
So in terms of matchups, you're thinking that, do you think that on those for sure passing downs that Notre Dame, those experienced DNs are just going to be able to put their ears back and just go?
They're going to go back and forth, in my opinion. That's how they're probably going to play it. I think, you know, every now and then they're going to have that boundary DN stunt inside and make sure that outside, that field side DN stays home outside when they're dead center in the middle of the field. I think that's where they're going to maybe have both DNs just play it out safe outside and do a speed rush on pass downs and then see what they can get from their interior guys. Like I said, they're all experienced. They're all older than their entire offensive line. I don't think they're even going to need to do anything much different than just play their base defense and just see how it plays out. I think first quarter, you're going to see them play base defense and see how it plays out. And then after that, if they're doing fine, then they're just going to keep it that way and maybe get some other guys experience later on in the game if they're dominating. If it ends up being a good ball game, that's where it's going to be fun because then you're going to see both these DNs. This whole defensive line, I think, is going to start doing all kinds of stunts and maybe some different alternative blitzes. We'll see what happens.
One thing of note in terms of Duke's offense is their quarterback doesn't have a lot of experience, but he has shown in what little experience he has that he is shown to be clutch. He did come in 2018, rallied Clemson because he was Trevor Lawrence's backup at Clemson. And he rallied them in a fourth quarter deficit at home to beat Syracuse after Trevor Lawrence.
Is it Bryce?
Yes. Their quarterback is Bryce.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
I completely forgot he transferred over to
So-
Duke. And Cutcliffe is a quarterback whisperer, a real quarterback whisperer.
So that is something. He may be dancing around in the pocket, but he is shown to be poised under pressure in the few experiences he has.
All right. Well, then I that's going to be fun to watch then. And not to mention, now I'm going to flip things over here a little bit. Going on to Duke's defensive line, all right, and Notre Dame's offensive line. Duke's defensive line, same deal as their offensive line. They're young, but they're experienced. All right. That's kind of been the reoccurring theme that I've seen in the trenches for Duke's offense and defensive lines. That's what's fun for me to see, because that's where you see some guys either step up or you see some guys really tank. So against see it when you're going up against the vets, right? So Notre Dame's offensive line, older, more experienced, all returning starters. So we've got, Notre Dame's got the advantage in the trenches, which leads me to believe that Notre Dame's going to take this bowl game away. It's going to have to do. There's going to have to be some stellar play calls for Duke's offensive coordinator, stellar play calling, and we're going to need to see some mix-up here, something from Duke's defense that's going to maybe make these offensive linemen kind of guess and maybe go against the grain of what they've seen on film. But the matchup, fellas, the matchup of this week, the mano-a-mano that I'm really, really excited to see in the trenches is we have Victor. I do not want to butcher his last name, but it's I don't want to butcher it. It starts with a D. Victor D. He's Duke's defensive end. If you guys want to pull that up and see if you can figure out how to word that, I don't want to mess it up. And then Notre Dame's offensive tackle, Robert Hainsey. So going on Victor here, the defensive end for Duke, 6'3", 265 pounds, which is solid for that's solid for a defensive end. And I've seen a little bit of tidbits of clips and stuff of him playing and kind of seen photos of him. This dude's solid. And he's a senior. He's from Baltimore, Maryland. He's started 38 consecutive games. He's got 122 tackles. He's got 7.5 tackles from a loss from breaking in. He's 7.5 tackles for a loss away from breaking into Duke's top 10 record in defensive plays of all time, and 9 sacks away from breaking the record in sacks for Duke's defensive line. This dude's a tank. Okay, this guy can flat out play. So I'm really, really excited to see him, and he's going to be going up against the veteran here for Notre Dame, as I mentioned, the offensive tackle, Robert Hainsey, 6'5", 290, which is a little bit wider for an offensive tackle. It's a little bit wider, so that means this guy can move.
That's weird for Notre Dame to go under 300.
Well, yeah, but what that tells me is that Notre Dame's not going to be afraid to throw the screen at all.
Yeah.
That means that this guy's going to be getting out in space and trying to block linebackers, which all the more to say, let's see how good Victor really is. Is he going to be able to pick up on that when the screen's coming? What's he going to do?
Well, it says here he does have an interception.
He does. Yeah, I remember seeing that too. Yeah,
and 2 pass breakups.
Yeah, so I'm assuming that if they do throw the screen, they're going to try and throw it away from this guy, number 51, Victor. And going a little bit more on Robert, he's the team captain. He's offensive line of the year in 2019. However, he did suffer a season-ending injury last season due to a broken ankle. So
that
he's
will
going to
affect
be
that mobility.
That little thing right there. That's why this matchup is going to be crucial. You have a light offensive tackle who's a veteran. He's the team captain. Is he going to be able to move out in space? Is he going to be able to do what he's probably good at doing best, or is that ankle going to stop him a little bit? Is Victor going to be able to step up and take it to him?
Do we know which side he plays tackle? Is he the left or right tackle?
He's left tackle.
He's left tackle, and do we know what ankle that break was on?
I do not know what ankle. I do not know which ankle, but I'm willing to bet it's going to be pretty obvious.
Because, I mean, that would really affect your kick slide. And
you think rehabbing in this situation with the COVID thing that we've been having.
Well, he would have already, if the break happened last season, he's had plenty of time to rehab. I'm sure it's stronger than it's ever been.
That's true. I don't know at what point last season it happened, because if it happened towards the end of the year, you're looking into...
It was a little bit further towards the end of the season. I think it was mid to end of the season.
Because you got to remember the lockdowns and shit happened in March.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's still quite a bit of time, but that's still a lot of workout time that would get strictly work on getting his mobility back and making sure that he's good to go for football.
Right. I think that's where this is why I made this the matchup, man. This is going to be
that's
fun
a good
to
point.
watch.
No, that's
we have a solid defensive end who's coming up and playing, and he's going to be somebody who I think can do something special. He's got crazy good stats, and going up against the offensive tackle who was like the guy on the team that everyone looks up to. If this can make or break a football team, fellas, if you have, your best guy on your trenches going up against mano a mano with the best guy on their trenches, it's like how you see in every single war movie. You ever seen Troy?
Yes.
What do?
I was just thinking that.
In Troy, you send out your biggest badass out there to do a mano a mano to settle the whole thing and save a lot of lives. And every single time that happens, when the whole team sees that they're badass, whoop up on their badass,
they're hyped.
And that team kind of feels defeated. They kind of shut down.
You see it at every spring and spring practices as well. You do the one-on-ones. You have offense versus defense. If that defensive dude gets you, the entire defense, you see all the blue jerseys swarming. The white jerseys are still talking crap, even though they got beat. It's no doubt. Just how it works. It's a culture, man.
Exactly. So I'm excited to see this matchup, and that's why these guys are the tale of the trenches for this week.
That is awesome. Well, that about wraps it up for episode 1 of the Dialed Up Podcast. Thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you again next week.